Thank you for joining today's seminar. I'm KAWAGUCHI from Department of Economics. Today, I'm going to talk about the use of algorithm in the context of research business, based on one of my recent paper. So now, the algorithm is taking over human tasks in multiple domains, which includes the diagnosis in healthcare for deciding investment and for forecasting the demand for new products, for hiring employees, and for communicating with customers. Given this recent progress of algorithm, the dream of a manager is to automate the existing business process as much as possible by replacing some of the existing human workers with machines equipped with algorithm. This kind of automation has been successful in a few business domains, such as web service and app, where the interaction with the customers can be limited through a device, so the program running on the server can do most of the jobs. Or manufacturing also has a long history of automation. In their case, they can optimize the design of the factory so that machines equipped with algorithm can run freely. However, the situation is slightly different in the case of the brick and mortar retail business, because still we have a physical store, and there human workers have to interact with the customers. And the store can be designed slightly from the operational perspective, but still it is primarily for customers. So we cannot design the retail stores like a factory where robots can move around. So in the end, even though the managers and the data analysts at headquarters can analyze the data, run algorithm, and making an algorithmic advice about pricing and the product assortment and inventory and so on, in the end, they have to rely on the local workers and local store managers to implement it. But these workers have some discretion. They may not want to follow the algorithmic advice because they may not want to work hard, or they may have their own rule about decisions, and they may be proud of that. So the real question is, okay, are they willing to follow the algorithmic advice, under what kind of condition? And this was exactly the problem I encountered when I started this project with Japan Railway East. You may wonder, why Japan Railway East while we are talking about retail business? They are the largest private railway company operating in the eastern part of main island of Japan, including the Tokyo metropolitan area. And they have a large daily passengers along their railways. Taking advantage of these large daily passengers, they have developed retail business inside stations. They created even a department store within the ticket counters. So now, this retail business is one of the most profitable and growing sector inside this company. And before I started this project with them, among those retail businesses that they are operating, I'm primarily working with a company that is managing the beverage vending machine business inside the station. Okay. And before I engaged in this project, we have already worked on several projects in which we studied the effectiveness of product recommendations at the vending machine. They introduced a vending machine that can recognize the demography of the customer who are standing in front of the vending machine and make customized product recommendations. We studied whether this was effective or not, and whether this interacted with some contextual factors inside the station, like a number of crowds around you, or the time pressure because of the incoming trains. And we have written several papers for this. But after that, the company started to ask me, they want to consider this problem. Product assortment decisions. can we optimize the product assortment decisions at this company by using some algorithm? Okay. So what is product assortment decision? Each vending machine, on average, can carry like 36 beverages. And every season, the company has a list of like 200 products. And they have to choose the best combination of 36 products for each vending machine. Okay? And this task is not very easy because the demand is different. Demand for the beverages can be different across stations and across vending machines. And the company introduces many brand new products every season, and the popularity of these new products are unknown. So the workers, they have to dynamically run the demand of new products at each location while exploiting, earning revenues from existing products like a Coca-Cola. And they have to do this across thousands of vending machines in hundreds of stations. Okay? So this is a very complicated dynamic problem. And they have been doing this by human before I joined this. What they did was like this. Okay? This company classifies vending machines into roughly 10 groups, depending on their average business traffic and the type of the district around the stations. And then determined the roughly half of the products of each group and asked the workers to carry these products. But this is very coarse because it's only 10 variations. And because they cannot frequently visit the machine, it is there throughout a season. Okay? So to adapt to the local demand, the workers delegated the decisions of the last half of the products to the local contract workers who are hired by third-party operating companies. Okay? So they asked me whether we can replace this with some algorithm. And my answer was, yeah, in principle, we can do that. Okay? This is called the multi-armed bandit problem. And there is a many readily available algorithm to answer this question. Specifically, I suggested them to use so-called Thompson sampling. It works in this way. So at the beginning of every month, we can collect the sales data of each vending machine. And we update our belief about the demand of each product at each vending machine using a Bayesian inference. Okay? Based on that, we recommend assortment for each vending machines using Thompson sampling. Intuitively, what we have to do is this. We diversify the products while the uncertainty about the demand is high. We will try many products at first. But gradually, we learn the demand of each vending machines, right? Then we start to concentrate on a few beverages. And we have to balance between these two, exploring the potential of new products while exploiting the popularity of existing products. And this Thompson sampling will naturally balance this trade-off over time. Okay? And we make this algorithmic advice, and if the workers follow this, the assortment will change, and the customers will come to the vending machines, and we will have another sales, and at the end of the month, we collect this new data and return to the top. Okay? And we will do this throughout this experiment period, 2016 September to 2017 March. This will work in principle, but we had the concern that this may not work because, oh, sorry, we were talking about it. Let me show that this should work, at least on a paper. Okay? So this algorithm has two components. One is demand forecast, and another is recommendation of the assortment. First, we use the data just before the experiment period and checked whether our demand forecast is correct or not. Basically, here, 1 point represents a vending machine in a week. For each vending machine, we use the data up to that week, estimate the demand, and make a forecast of the sales in next week. It is in the vertical axis. And this horizontal axis shows the actual sales. And you can see that these points lie around 45 degrees line. That means that my demand forecaster is working very well. Okay? Based on that, we recommend assortment every week at every location. And at the beginning of the season, we do not know about demand at each place. But at the end of the season, we kind of know the answer, right? What was the best mix? Because many things were tried. So from the viewpoint of at the end of the season, we consider the optimal assortment retrospectively for each vending machine. And we can calculate the best possible revenue for each vending machine, right? And then, based on that, we can evaluate the opportunity loss compared of the actual assortment chosen by the workers compared to the best possible revenue. And this is described by blue line. It shows that at the beginning of the season, roughly there was a 16% of opportunity loss if this was chosen by the workers. And it drops to around 8% after 10 or 15 weeks, but it's still there. That shows that workers are doing a reasonable job. They can learn from the data, they can adapt to the local demand. But this was not perfect. If they used my algorithm, at least on the paper, we could achieve this red line performance. Okay? The opportunity loss at the beginning of the season was like 12%, and it quickly drops to like 3% after a few weeks. So at least on the paper, this should outperform workers' decisions about the assortment. So they should be replaced with this algorithm. Okay? But this may not work. That was our concern. Because, as I already told, the assortment decisions had been partly delegated to these local workers. Okay? And they were proud of it. And they had their own rule. So they may not want to listen to the algorithmic advice. And we cannot force them to follow this because they are contract workers. You cannot give a daily detailed instruction to the contract workers. If you want to do this, you have to hire them. Okay? This is definitely one possible option, but it is very costly to hire like hundreds of workers. Then you have to bear all the human resource cost. So it may not be optimal to take this position. And even if you hire them, still, and then you can at least legally make an order, but they may not still follow it. Okay? So the problem will remain. So how we can motivate workers to follow the algorithmic advice? We consider it. And then we hypothesize this. Maybe the workers' engagement in this process is the key. The literature suggests that the sense of involvement in the rule setting and sense of control of the algorithm is the key to the conformity of a participant to the rule or to the algorithm. So let's do the same thing here. Okay? In particular, we decided to ask workers about their opinions and incorporate those opinions into the tuning of the algorithm. Okay? Specifically, in August 2016, it's just before we started our experiment, we conducted some survey to the workers. In that season, several new products were coming, and I asked them about their prediction about the sales and popularity of these new products in their business area. And we incorporated this information to the initial parameter of the algorithm. Okay? And then we randomly assigned workers into 3 groups. The first group is the status quo control group, where I didn't give any algorithmic advice. They decide assortment as they have been doing. The second advice group, we provided a plain algorithmic advice that doesn't incorporate the worker's opinion. Okay? And the third integration group is where we provided an algorithm that incorporated workers' opinion. And I told them that your opinion is incorporated in this algorithm. Then we started the season, analyze the data every month, and summarized recommended assortments in spreadsheets and distributed them through the company's managers to the contractors. And we continued this process from September 2016 to February 2017. Then we got the data. Now, how to test the hypothesis? Okay. So essentially, what we wanted to see was a correlation between the algorithmic product assortment and the assortments taken by the workers. The higher the correlation, the more the workers are following the advice. But we have to be careful that even if we do not show the algorithmic advice to the workers, these two can be correlated because both workers and my algorithm run from the past data. So even if we do not give the advice, they may naturally get similar. And actually, even in the control group, the correlation was 0.118. So there was some correlation. So the real question is whether this second advice and third integration group show a higher correlation than the first control group. Then the result was this. Okay. Result showed that the workers did not listen to the algorithmic advice at all in the second group if you do not incorporate workers' opinion. But if you incorporate workers' opinion to train the algorithmic advice, and if I tell them that it is incorporated, I could slightly improve the conformity. And this effect was statistically significant, but the effect size itself was quite small. This is the first average result. Then we see the heterogeneous response of the workers. Maybe one of the key dimensions that affect the conformity will be the performance of the workers. So using the pre-experiment season data, we scored workers' performance. And what we found was that if the worker is a high performer, they tended to ignore the plain algorithmic advice, as you expect. However, if I incorporate the worker's opinion, the high performer listened to the advice more than the low performers. So this shows that, on average, it's important to incorporate workers' opinion into the algorithm if you would like to improve the conformity of the workers. But at the same time, you should distinguish between low performer who are not very confident on their business and high performer who are experienced and confident on their decisions. In the latter case, you better appreciate their opinion. For the first, we should just give an algorithmic advice and say that, okay, this will help your decision and it will improve your performance. This may work. So this was the main result. So in particular, in what kind of margin they have corrected their behavior. Careful look at the control group showed that compared to the algorithm, the worker's decision tended to have too many private grants of this Japan Railway East. And when the temperature changes from summer to the winter, they put the hot beverages too early. And finally, they put too many Coca-Cola brands. Maybe they have some bias that Coca-Cola brand will sell very well. May want to stick to that, but at least at the beginning of the season, they try something new to see whether some products can be a big hit in a particular location. Okay? This was the dimensions that was slightly corrected by introducing the algorithmic advice. So as such, I tested by field experiment that the incorporating workers' opinion is very important to improve the conformity of the worker to the algorithmic advice. And running field experiment is important to publish a paper, but for business, sometimes simply asking workers a reason would be enough, right? So we did it after the experiment. So we asked what needs to be improved for them to conform to the algorithmic advice more. The incorporating workers' opinion was important, but it was not the most important reason. It was only 7th important. And the most important part was the burden of work. They answered that, yeah, reading this spreadsheet and considering what to do and so on is very hard to do. I thought that following algorithmic advice is easy, but it seems not. They already have some own rule, and they are something new. And you have to overwrite what you have been doing with a new advice. This is very hard for them. And they wanted this to be mitigated. And other reasons include the reliable demand prediction and detailed explanation of the algorithm and so on. This part may be improved by giving better instructions to the workers. This was the takeaway from this experiment for me and for the company. So after that, the company actually introduced this kind of algorithmic advice, but they developed a front-end app that the workers can conveniently access to the information. And they continuously updated this process by incorporating workers' opinion. And also, they somewhat simplified the algorithm so that it can be transparent and interpretable to the workers. And then they continue this business since we have conducted this experiment. So this is what we have found in this paper. And this is related to a growing literature called human algorithmic connection or human-machine integration. And this literature asks a few questions like this. Algorithmic aversion. How to increase the adoption and adherence to analyze embedded in the decision support system. And human in the loop. Should humans be allowed to override model-based recommendations? And my paper was the first kind of this paper that actually used a field experiment inside the business practice. And this literature also includes questions like customer satisfaction in machine-driven communication like a chat box, and algorithmic fairness, bias, discrimination, and amplification. And algorithmic transparency, the trade-off between the optimality and interpretability. So if you are interested in these topics, and if you can work with me, feel free to contact me, then we may be able to start some new field experiments in your company. Okay, thank you. This is a talk I have today.
I also have one question about the algorithmic advice and the workers. So is it the case that the actual contract workers are incentivized for selling products? And so they're leaving money on the table, right? They're losing by not following the algorithmic advice?
Yes, their wage is proportional to the sales from the vending machines that they manage. So if they could improve the sales, they should get higher wage. But still, they didn't follow if they do not believe the algorithm, or if they think following the algorithm is too costly for them, cognitively speaking. Yeah, so we have to overcome these obstacles. And just incentivizing them is not enough. Yeah.
Could you imagine disclosing to them how much money they're leaving on the table?
No, I cannot disclose that information. That is written in the contract, and this is confidential. Sorry about that. Yeah.